University of the West Indies, Kivil campus. I am 22 years old and I have a passion for creating change.
Nice. Um, we know it could be a bit of a challenge actually when we're faced with university, actually that journey. How are you able to cope? And we see sometimes being away from home is one of the hardest challenges you've been sharing with us.
I've been able to cope just fine. My support system has definitely been a large factor in me, being able to just integrate into the environment. So, people like my mother, my father, my cousins, all of my family members, my friends, both back home and here, they're very helpful in, just making me feel at ease with everything, especially my sister. Um, Also, I find that the people here, the friends I've made here are very nice, so that helps a lot as well. And in terms of juggling university life, I like to plan out my days. So I like to make time for my homework, my studying, everything. I plan it out like very stringently. Yeah.
Great. And of course, let me once again say congratulations to you on being the
Thank
first
you.
university student of the year, Saudi year for sure.
Thank
How
you.
does that achievement really feel for you and your family? I know it was one of the proudest moments for you.
Mhm. Yeah, as you said, it was one of the proudest moments. For me, it made me feel really as if all the work I had done up to that point, I had really achieved something really big with that. I felt like, my work had been acknowledged, and now being the recipient of that scholarship, I feel as though going forward I can really make a change in my community after having received my degree, and then with higher education, hopefully, that I can pursue after having received this degree, I can make an even bigger change in the world.
Why did you choose literatures, in English as your major and of course French as your minor?
Mm. I've always been very passionate about literature ever since I was a child, and around the time that we were writing Cape, it really became something that I realized I was very good at. I think when I was choosing subjects that I would want to study at university level, and looking back at all of my grades and things, it really stood out to me that during my second year of Cape, I had topped the region for literature. So that really made me feel like, okay, this is the thing that I should be doing. And for French, I've always really enjoyed studying French at school, and I think that literature and French, they're part and parcel. You can study French literature, you can go on to lecture in French from there. So I think that when I was choosing my subjects to study, I thought about all of those things, and I thought that was the most logical combination, considering my interests and things that I would be able to do in the future.
Interestingly, we should be conversating in French. Bonjour, mademoiselle.
Bonjour. Comment ça
Comment
va?
ça va bien, toi?
Ça va, ça va.
Mhm. Qu'est-ce que tu as fait aujourd'hui?
Pardon?
Qu'est-ce que tu as fait aujourd'hui?
Aujourd'hui, j'ai eu des classes, euh, mais je ne mange pas ce matin. Euh, j'ai fait des devoirs et c'est tout.
D'accord.
Oui.
Nice. Not too bad at all. Yes. Do you really feel that your studies connect in any way? I mean, with the experiences growing up in beautiful Soufriere?
I do. Especially the literature part of what I'm studying. Um, Growing up in Soufriere, I was exposed to a lot of community activity, cultural stuff, especially from groups like Soufriere Action Theatre. My bad. And in fact, that's what kind of motivated whatever I'm doing for my thesis right now. I'm currently looking at rewriting certain folk tales, and I think that through my degree I will be able to properly document these folk tales, these things that are a bit lesser known to the general public, apart from people who are directly involved in those fields. So yeah, I think they're very much linked to me growing up in Soufriere and me having experienced cultural aspects, namely folklore.
Um, in terms of the impact of the scholarship program, how do you believe maybe has the foundation, supported at this stage?
They've been an immense help, not just covering tuition, but my day to day living, even bigger expenses, like my books. And, being somebody who's studying literature, I would have to buy things that, you might not be able to easily source apart from it being in the university bookstore. And, that can be costly. So, yeah, they've been an immense help, not just with tuition, but especially my day to day living. Mhm.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility being the first and, of course, to inspire the young people in this vein?
Can you repeat, please? You were breaking up a bit.
Do you feel the sense of responsibility, especially being the first to inspire the young people, especially from your community, to follow that footstep?
I do to some extent. It's not a great overwhelming pressure, but I do feel like yes, since I'm the first, I would have to, really show people that the foundation invested in me and that I'm going to do right by them and my community.
Do you feel like sometimes you're really under pressure?
Not so much. I think the bulk of the pressure that I'm under is pressure that I place on myself, simply because um, throughout my academic life, I've just been that kind of person who wants good grades and not just good grades, but like top grades. But I don't feel much pressure like being the first. Most of the pressure that I'm experiencing is self inflicted.
Okay. Where do you see your degree taking you? Do you plan to stay in the academic world, exploring teaching, writing, translation, or anything else you can share with us?
Can you repeat, please? The latter half of your sentence.
Do you see where exactly do you see your degree taking you? You plan to stay in the academic world, explore
Mhm.
teaching, or even writing, I mean, translation?
Mhm. Ideally, I would like to continue my education and hopefully become a university lecturer someday. And I also do a little bit of writing on the side, so I'm hoping to get some of my stuff published as well. Yeah.
Interestingly, Isil, if you could speak directly to your younger students in Soufriere today, what advice or what encouragement would you give to them? We've seen a lot of delinquent behaviors for sure,
Mm.
and maybe we could like go back to when you were my student for sure, and a lovely batch born out of that, and look at where you are today for sure. So what encouragement, you want to put out there to speak directly to the young ones, I to avoid them being led astray?
Mhm. I would say stay in school. Keep abreast with your studies. I know a lot of people would tell you that, school is not everything, or even in my day-to-day going about in Sufra and other parts of St. Lucia, people would tell me like school is not everything, school is not everything. I get that. But I'd like to impress upon people that school is very important, especially doing well in school. I know a lot of the time, we want to skate by the wayside and say, this thing will not really benefit me in the later run. But you never know. Look where it got me. Stay in school, really take your studies seriously. Really take your studies seriously, no matter what stage you're at right now, whether it be SALCC or even primary school. really take your studies seriously. You never know where that might get you, and try to become very involved in school life, even if it's little things like joining a school club or taking up little leadership roles. Really just find constructive things in schools, constructive educational things to occupy yourself with. Yeah.
I'm very happy you spoke of getting engaged or even taking on leadership roles. Can you share with us? Because a lot of the times the young people are not too interested, especially when it comes to volunteering in the community. We see that kind of aspect declining a lot. And I know
Mhm.
you've been instrumental in so many groups for sure. You mind sharing with us? I mean, what really kept you going? What even motivated you to be part of such, part and parcel,
Mhm. Um, Growing up, I was always involved in little groups that would pop up in Soufriere and in its environs as well. Even little things like being part of the school's choir, I find that's something simple and really fun that young people can get engaged with. There's also peer helpers in secondary school, although I wasn't as active as I would have liked to be in that. But I'm also part of little community groups that pop up or just things that I see that interest me. For example, I play sometimes with Labry Steel Pen when I'm on island for Panorama. And even though, they're not too close to me, I've tried to find things that I'm very passionate about, things that interest me. And then from there, you can communicate with individuals who are in charge and then get yourself in these places. So I think to really get involved in things like that, younger people need to find things that they're very interested in, very passionate about, or just things that they would find fun in the longer run.
Yeah, definitely. How would you describe you? I mean, your personality. What makes Iyanna stand out?
Uh I would say I'm a very bubbly person. I'm very different. Not in terms of being excessively like in your face with it, but I'm very not afraid to present as differently from other people. Simple things like, my hair and the way that I dress. I think the thing that stands out about me the most is that I'm not afraid of being a creative person. I think a lot of the time people shy away from, being just wholly themselves and letting people see that they're this big creative presence because they're afraid that people will comment on it and be like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" But I really don't care. To me, that's the thing that stands out about me most. I'm not afraid to be creative and I'm not afraid to just be unabashedly myself.
Amidst all of that, there were always good and bad days. How do you cope with not so good days? And also share with us a typical university day.
Mhm. The not so good days, I try to take a lot of time for myself. So I make time to just sit and, be and let myself breathe, do things that I like doing, maybe take a walk or something, or go to the beach, or, just talk to my friends, talk to my family, call. Yeah. A typical university day for me looks very packed. Some days I have classes from 8 up until 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But in between, I like to give myself some downtime. So yes, I study in between periods and I do homework in between periods and so on. But I also make time to just sit down and relax and just breathe, take in some fresh air, go for a little walk around the place where I live, and then make time to meet up with people at school as well, my friends at school. You know, um, yeah, but a typical university day is very packed for me. But I try as much as possible with all of what's going on to stay healthy, to eat healthily. I plan out my meals and stuff. I try to drink a lot of water and just, do things that will take all of the edge of university life off of me. Yeah.
It can be a bit of a pressure for sure. How were you able to master year one?
Um, yeah, one I would say was pretty challenging at first, but with time management and stuff like that, and just making allowances for things that might happen, I find I was able to get a better grasp of what the university experience was. I remember coming in, and I came in during a second semester, so everybody was kind of ahead of me in that regard. But just talking to people and finding out what they had done before that, and accessing the resources provided to me by the university, and just keeping abreast of my studies really helped me to stay focused, and I was very on and organized with everything.
Thank you so much for that. 24 minutes after the hour of 10 a.m. It's the solution, of course. The Eastern Caribbean, if you're joining us here, is Iyanna Seale, the Soufriere Foundation's first university student. It's immense gratitude, I must say as well. Um, Among all the factors here, you've not touched on entertainment. What exactly do you do for fun?
For fun at school or for fun when I'm in St. Lucia?
Generally, because at school it's the book, so you have to focus. So I would
Okay.
say that.
At school, I like to get involved in whatever's happening on campus. So, at every week there is a different island association presenting stuff. So, for example, I think last week was Belize, and they had their culture night and their food day, and I like to get involved with things like that. I also like to go out with my friends. So, like, we'll go to try out different restaurants and stuff, or we'll go to the beach, or we'll go to the cinema, or something like that during downtime. I like to watch a lot of shows and like read some books in my spare time as well. Even though, with the course load, I don't get to do as much as I would like to. Um, but yeah, and whenever there are like little shows and things on campus, so for example, if the creative arts division is putting on a play or something like that, I really enjoy going to these things. hmm Um, I do try to get myself involved with more extracurricular at school, but again, time. But when I'm in St. Lucia, a lot of it is just me going to pun. I really love pun. I really love playing steel pun, and that's my thing. Yeah.
And I did see a bit of you when you were here and we were able to have some engagements. How was it for you? I mean, being able to take that much needed break as well and preparing yourself to jump into your second semester.
Uh, Being back in St. Lucia for a little while and just getting to, take part in everything was really refreshing, I must say. I think I really needed it. And, sometimes when you're abroad, you get kind of homesick, even though, Barbados and St. Lucia are very close. It's a different environment for sure. I did go to a few of the events hosted by SRDF. For example, there was a Vukum workshop with some people from Guadeloupe. I really enjoyed that. That was really nice. And I always like going to little cultural things like that. Um, but yeah, it was really refreshing just being back home and, being among people who I grew up with and my friends. Yeah, it was really nice.
At this juncture, I would love for you to, if you were to, two of your mentors, who would they be?
Right now,
Yes,
um, can I give one of my parents as my mentor?
no problem.
Yeah, I'd say my mentors right now are one, Mrs. Gill, who taught me at before comprehensive A level. I really From there I think Mrs. Gill really did nurture in me a passion for literature, and I've always just wanted to be as passionate about literature as she was. As I really just admire everything about Miss Gill. Um, and also, I really admire everything about my mother. My mother would have studied at UWI, and even now, just looking at all of the years she's put into being an educator, I really admire that, and I want to see myself doing that in the future. So yeah, these two people definitely are my mentors, my inspirations.
Okay. Um, if you were to, upon your return, change three things in your community, with what you're studying, what would they be? What would you like to see better?
One, I would really like to see just an increase of literacy in our community. I think it's especially important now with, all that's happening in the world to stay literate and be informed. And I think especially in Soufriere, having worked as a teacher for a little while before I came to university, it's very evident that there's a need for us to have more literacy programs around the community, because the teachers can't do everything. We need some programs in our community to help our children outside of school. So I think that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about doing, bringing some form of literacy initiative to Soufriere. Two, I'd like to see a little more youth getting involved with the culture. Um, Not just, the culture of carnival when it rolls around, but more traditional things like maybe folk tales, folk music. So definitely I would be partnering with groups like Sufi Action Theatre and, little groups like that in a community when I get back. Definitely to get more youth involved and on board. And three, I've definitely thought about it, and I think it's something that I would definitely put in place when I get back, is just an avenue for young writers in St. Lucia, not just in Soufriere, but in St. Lucia in general, to have their works put out there. I'm not too sure how I would end up doing that yet, but I really want to see initiatives that encourage young writers to come out and put out their works and really share their works with the community. Yeah.
With all these bustling ideas, I think I can say, and four would be
For
yes.
I would like to see not that it pertains to my studies specifically, but I would like to see a revival of maybe steel pen groups in Soufriere. I think that's something that we really need to get on as a community. No matter, I know these things are very costly again, but I think that's something that would really benefit the youth and get them, a little bit more involved in community life and away from straying by the wayside and getting involved in all kinds of activities that don't benefit them. So yeah, definitely that.
Okay, let's take a look. I mean, given your major literatures as well, if you were to actually put that book out there, you, the author, what title would it be and why?
Okay, right now I am very involved in writing about folklore. That's my thing. That's my concentration right now at UE. Even with my thesis, that's what I'm doing. Um, Right now, I probably put out, if I would to release something like after I graduate. It would probably be something about La Diablesse, probably rewriting La Diablesse to be like more feminist and have less regressive undertones. Yeah, I think that's what I'd put out there.
Oh, nice. Um, in terms of support close to home, we know your family, of course, have been there from day one. Aside from that, you want to share with us for all those who've really helped you, nurture you, and see you full bloom to present day.
Aside from my family, um, my past teachers have been instrumental in motivating me, especially Mrs. Gill. Um, I really like talking to just my past teachers and people I've interacted with coming up, growing up. Also, even people I've worked with, so former colleagues, they've been like very supportive and very instrumental in motivating me to keep going. Um, yeah, also just friends that I'd made along the way, both here in Barbados, like meeting other St. Lucians, other people from Soufriere, and people who I was already talking to in St. Lucia. They've been very instrumental in motivating me to just keep going and, keep at it. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of the
Can you repeat, please? Hello?
For
Hello?
the audience purposes,
You can hear me now?
I yes, I just before the interruption, actually, mention of just share a little in terms of culinary experiences with us. You mentioned you do friends the for social exploring. I mean the country. So are there takeaways from that you would really want to when you come home to maybe experience or try out or even maybe
Can
ooh,
you repeat
what's
the
with
last
this
part, please?
internet?
Oh no. Can you repeat, please? You went out for a little while.
Of patience.
only on Soufriere FM, your
Hello?
T radio.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Just want to apologize for that lost in connectivity.
That's fine.
Before that, actually, I made a mention of your conversation stated that you, with your friends, do go out into the town, explore
Mm-hmm.
Barbados. Is there anything you've taken from that to, in terms of coming back home? Comparison, what you think we should include? The culture varies, yes, but there were always things that are different. That okay, I wish we had that back home. I wish
Mm-hmm.
people would do certain things or inject. This is a lot better. Just those things do happen on a daily basis sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So maybe a few of what you've actually observed or what you've taken away that you want or you wish that okay, that can work in my country or even in my community. I could share that
Mm-hmm.
idea, and basically with a group of like-minded persons like myself, we can see
Mm-hmm.
that come to a reality, things to that extent.
Mm-hmm. Um, in Barbados, I'd say there's like a lot of entrepreneurship. Not that there isn't a lot in Soufriere or Saint Lucia, but I find they're everywhere really. You go to Bridgetown and then you see there's persons who have their crafts and stuff outside, or there's persons with like a booth in town selling stuff. I think maybe, you know, we can do something like that, have different booths. Not that we don't already have some, as as you're going along the new development way, but maybe even more, maybe in town central. um yeah, things like that. And there's like little innovative things happening as well. You go to places like Pelican Village and you see that, okay, this person has a bar, but it's not your average bar experience. They have live entertainment in the center going on and all sorts of things happening around that. So I think maybe just a little more innovation from us in terms of our businesses and uplifting our entrepreneurs.
Definitely. Also, you stressed your passion being, I mean, folklore. We're actually in October where we're going to be observing Creole Heritage Month. Do
Mhm.
you really think enough emphasis has been placed when it comes to our heritage itself or even our tradition to an extent?
I don't think enough is being stressed in terms of our heritage. I think the groups who are very much involved in that do try, but they cannot do it alone. I think a large part of amplifying our culture needs to be community involvement, and I find that a lot of persons in the day to day, they're not very involved with our culture, except for around Creole time, when stuff is out. So I think a lot more just people in the community who are not already involved in these things need to get on board. So more youth, more just people around need to get involved with our culture, and not just amplifying it when it's Creole time, but in general, taking an active part in our culture.
Definitely, I agree with you on that. And even discussions I've raised in terms of why wait for October for that grand celebration.
Mhm.
If it's our culture, basically it should be observed all year round. And I think there is some merit to that if we were to speak. For me, I dislike Creole month itself, where the language doesn't speak well with me. I struggle to speak
Mhm.
it for sure. But
Mhm.
I'm really happy with that, introduction of the Creole book. And even with that dictionary as well, it could help a
Mhm.
lot of persons like me to better appreciate, the language and even maybe able to communicate it, better.
Mhm.
In terms of the observances, for sure, there's nothing happening in Soufriere, which is a little sad, but then
Mhm.
the organization has, with sub departments put a few things together for persons. I mean, an exhibition,
Mhm.
cooking competition,
Mhm.
treasure hunt, games night, and so forth. So I think it would really give the public a sense of appreciation to know there were things happening that you can partake in. I
Mhm.
know if you were there, much, I mean, involvement would have been given as well, because this is your forte.
Definitely.
Nice. Um, We're almost at the end of it. Quickly, I'm going to ask you, I mean, what does, success look like for you beyond graduation? And sometimes when we think of success, it's a bit tricky as well. We look at finances, but success
Mhm.
can be defined, in various forms as well. So just to reiterate, what does success look like, to you beyond graduation?
Mhm.
Even
To me,
overall.
oh, okay. To me, overall success would have to be definitely a combination of like academic success and community impact. I really think that a successful person is not just a rich person, but a person who has impact on their community, a person who has changed their community significantly, in a positive way. So after graduation, I don't just want to say, yes, I walked away with good grades and a degree, but I'd like to say that at least I started something in the community that could develop into something later, or something that, really got the youth to change their attitudes towards a certain aspect of our culture, something like that. To me, that's really what success is about: community impact, and you also being very academically established. I'm very heavy on being qualified in I think it's very important to be, yes, successful monetarily, but I think academic success also holds a lot of merit, because when other persons from outside of St. Lucia or outside of wherever you're studying are able to say, okay, I recognize your work and you're very trusted in this field, I think that really marks a successful person.
Thank you for that clarification, for sure. Something I just want to touch on before we end this discussion. It sits with me as a literature student as well, and we know too often persons are afraid to pick up the books for some apparent reason. Again, it goes to being literate, and that can stem from the home. It can stem from a few factors, sometimes, unknowing. But I think, as a former teacher yourself, we or students do not have to wait when they get, to that setting, that classroom, to then pick up a book or to even study or to, I mean, just the usual with
Mm-hmm.
the syllabus, and they shouldn't rely heavily on teachers to make that happen for them. As a
Mm-hmm. I
student, I
agree.
think it's your keen interest to pick up your books at home, and your parents definitely have to be strongly
Mm-hmm.
involved as well to ensure, that this gets done. And parents depend on the teacher too much to say, go to school and learn, go to school and learn,
I agree.
that's the teacher's job, just share a little with us because you were also in that show of being a teacher.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, our parents need to be a lot more involved in their children's learning, even if it's something as simple as taking a few minutes off of, when you get off from work to read with your child. Something simple like that can have the greatest impact later on. I think, yeah, too often we leave all the heavy lifting to the teachers to do, and we don't take into account that there is a finite time you know within which the teacher can work with the child, and it's multiple children, so throughout the day your child cannot get all the focus all the time, and some things naturally will not be touched upon because of the time frame. I think we especially need to encourage our parents to get children reading, even if
It's
it's
a problem.
something. Yeah, it is a real problem. Even if it's something as simple as maybe a comic book that they like, maybe they might learn some new words from there. I think we really need to think of innovative little ways to get them interested in reading, so that you don't have to tell your child to go and read, or you don't have to sit with your child all the time to read. Naturally they'll grow enough fondness for it to start reading on their own. But yeah, definitely I think that's a huge problem, and we often take for granted our teachers, and we say, okay, during the school day the teachers will take care of it, but um a lot of the time in the day that the children are free, it's at home. So we need to make some time to put these little structures in place where they can read at home and feel comfortable reading at home and enjoy reading at home. Mm-hmm.
Definitely so. And even if we can maybe even look at that culture as well, where persons believe we've lost, well, we have actually lost the culture where the community can raise a child, because as we speak, sometimes there is so many delinquency that we see, and it's not always your right to pinpoint to correct that particular child, because sometimes the parents themselves would come at you
Mm-hmm.
harder. And I think it's really, really sad. I mean, gone are those days sometimes that if somebody is falling short, or a child of your neighbor, for instance, that you ought to correct that person,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the relation that you may have with them as well, without, rubbing off, the wrong way. But everything goes haywire. And
Mm-hmm.
this is sort of why we see, the reflection of what's happening now in the communities with delinquent behavior, with gangs and all those sort of things, because there's no point of correction. Everybody believes it's okay, and you're not my parents, so you can talk to me. You cannot tell me what to do. Even taking that to school with the behaviors, the children tend to even attack the teachers as well. They will come into school weaponized. Like it's just so much now.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. I think a large part of that is due to us not having that sense of community as we did before. I think, before, people used to be a lot more together and a lot more willing to collaborate with each other. So I think that's definitely something that we as, everyday citizens need to work on, just building stronger ties with each other, and communicating with each other in a better way. Even when I'm at school, I see it as part of now the executive of the St. Lucia's Students Association. I think we need to build stronger community ties with each other. I think as St. Lucians, we really need to be more united as a people so we can make some actual change, as opposed to feeling that this person is against me or this person is not. you know I think that that's something we need to work on as a country, being more together, being more united, being more friendly towards each other even. Hmm.
Definitely. And even maybe before we leave, you can share with us what did your parents do actually? Maybe persons can pick one, 2 pages from that as well. You, as well as your sister. I mean, we
Hmm.
can really say, I mean, those are students that are exemplary. So we can definitely want to emulate them for sure. So, what did they do right?
I think they did a lot right. I think the thing that stands out to me most is that they raised us to be very like independent thinkers, so to form opinions on our own, like independent from what they think. They did encourage us to read quite a lot, so they'd buy us, instead of the normal toys that everybody gets, like how many Barbie dolls, they'd buy us books. And I remember we had like a shelf of Enid Blyton books in the house, and when it's that time of the day, you go and read your Enid Blyton. But yeah, they really did impress upon us that we had to form our own opinions of things going on around, regardless of what they thought. And even little things like sitting down to watch the news together when we were little. I remember we'd all be sitting down in the sitting room and we'd have to watch the news. Or at a certain point in time, they'd be like, "Where's your homework?" Little things like that, like actively being involved in how we learned, and making us very aware of what was going on in the world, and encouraging us to actively participate in thinking about what's going on right now. Hmm.
Definitely. I think it's the encouragement that is missing as well, too. We
Hmm.
really need to take a vested life in the children's school work as well, make it a priority. But then what you find at the end of the day, most times the priorities are all mixed up for sure. What
Hmm.
we prioritize, the entertainment over education. And I think it's quite sad. And this is the effects of what we're actually having to face. We have Caroline Bob. Good morning, my Soufriere family and friends. Always watching and listening to you from Castries, always connected with you all. Hey, thank you so much for that. And she continued to say, so proud of our young people. Keep it up. So know your stuff, my young lady.
Thank you.
Again, I can say I'm immensely proud of you as well, for
Thank
sure.
you.
I at this moment, your final, I mean, thoughts, encouragement, appeal, what you feel you just want to put out there to just encourage persons, because there are a lot of young persons on a day to day. Sometimes we're going through a battle, a never ending battle, if I were to say, and sometimes they're not aware who they can reach out to
Hmm.
actually, help them. Sometimes as well, spiritually, a lot of persons are not spiritual, and you have to put God in the midst of everything. No
Hmm.
matter how successful you are, no matter how you think you're in your big position and you're better than everybody else, you have your power and stuff. I mean, those
Hmm.
things don't matter, because at the end of the day, it's your heart and being spiritual. And I know for sure you, your family, they are um, very spiritual.
Yeah, definitely.
I know
Um,
that in fact. You
mhm.
don't miss a day of church, yes?
Yeah. Hmm. But I think also, to really, as we part, I think what we need to do as a community is really encourage our youth. Really and truly, I can tell you, as somebody who's been involved with community activities and even now trying to host little activities for our St. Lucia community in at school. I think the youth really need a lot of encouragement. So yes, we need to be spiritual, but I think, people can offer their spiritual leadership. It's a lot of the time we don't know as young people where to start. And I think, if older people could really offer their guidance, their knowledge, their experiences, maybe it would be really helpful. I think a lot of people my age are willing to listen and willing to learn, but we just don't know where to start, and we need a lot of guidance. And as we're departing from each other, I want to say that the youth in Soufriere and the youth in St. Lucia in general are very promising. I just think that there needs to be more structures encouraging the youth, and, really providing them with the resources that they need to carry out various activities that they want to, put in place. I think, yes, there are many resources that exist, and there are programs that exist, but a lot of the time youth don't know how to access them properly. They might not know the exact procedures to go through to find this thing or to get in touch with this person. So I think some older persons should, and out of, the kindness of their hearts, maybe offer up some knowledge and some resources to us to, get us to be more active in, not just being more present in St. Lucia as entrepreneurs and so on, but more present as St. Lucians. Yeah, I think older people really need to offer us some support in that regard. As youth, we really have a lot of big ideas, but a lot of the time we don't know where to start or even how to go about doing certain things. So yeah.
I fully agree with you. And you laughed like it's true, definitely. They need to offer the guidance as well, and to not always be of the view that everything has to be monetary as well. You have to be able to be
Definitely,
free
definitely.
within as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it is almost our time. What ticks for me, I mean, in terms of what your motivational quote, what gets you through your day to day, what keeps you inspired?
Mm-hmm. I like to live by every day we go one step at a time. So very little things that I get completed, I take that as, this big accomplishment that I've done something today for the day. Even if it's not the most grandiose thing ever, even little things like completing assignments, I take that as, I've done something for the day, and that's good. And let's continue. I've done something for the day. Let's continue one step at a time. Mhm.
Madam, you have to complete assignments. Huh?
I do. But yeah, even these little things I find time to celebrate. I think a lot of the time, just growing up, and because of how our society is arranged, we like to say, oh, this little thing that you've done, it's not enough. It's something that you're obligated to do, so we shouldn't celebrate it. But to me, even little accomplishments like that are very significant in getting me through the day. Just telling myself, okay, I've done that, good on me, and continue from there.
Okay. At this moment, you want to extend, I mean, gratitude to persons who really enable you to be at this, to be on this journey, actually, university wise, and continuing to support you 100%.
Mm-hmm. I want to say a big, 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 big thank you to Soufriere Regional Development Foundation. Without them, I would not be here. So thank you so much for choosing me as the recipient of your scholarship. Thank you so much for having faith in me that I will do a good job with the resources that you've provided to me. I also want to say thank you to my family for your unconditional support. Thank you to my friends back at home and here for your unconditional support. Sorry. um I want to say just thank you to everybody. Thank you to you for having me. Thank you to especially Mrs. Gill. Thank you for always being there, even if just to lend a listening ear. Thank you to everybody who is part of my support system, and thank you to everybody who's just seen me at university and really offered they how would I say it? Really just told me little things, given me little words of encouragement, and told me to keep going. Thank you to everybody, really, and most importantly, thank you to Soufriere General Development Foundation, really and truly.
Most definitely. And giving up is not an option. You have to continue to
It's
persevere.
not. It is.
You can do it, definitely.
I can. I will.
Joining in late, Nadia Casabo. That's the mindset of someone who's self motivated. Keep it up, Miss Seal.
Thank you. Definitely will.
And to Caroline Bob as well, thank you so much for your comments, as well as Nadia. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. A minute to the hour. This is what we say. It's been immense gratitude to have you here today. First part of my house guest program, Miss Seal, and definitely we'll be keeping in touch. And you can always let me know
Definitely.
when you're able to come on again to just inspire other young persons who want to pursue university life as well. There is always somewhere you must start at a point, and in steps to get to where you have to. No matter what you're going through, reach out to someone you
Definitely.
trust to speak to, if not your parent, but then there should be someone, you know, close enough that you may want to share your day to day with as well.
Mhm.
Blessings of prayer as always. It's a pleasure. Let's get ready for our second fall. Hey, Fun Strides is happening on Monday. So Mr. Solomon will be here to at least let us know how registration has been going and what is expected come Monday. Miss Sil, thank you. Have a blessed and productive one. Take care of yourself. We're
You're
out.
welcome. Same to you. Bye.